Flint, Michigan. This is the builder's home. I already did the before video. This is the middle, and I'll do an after video. You can see traditional landscapes as far as the eye can see. I had the straw delivered today, and the mounds are, these mounds aren't necessarily the full size they'll be, but they're at least established. We could plant like this. Everything is to the southwest. Hi there. Yeah. And then, thanks. So yeah, as usual, I started to do this and then I stopped and realized I needed to make a video. And I wanted to show it before it was covered because then you can't see. This triangle here, it ended up being, it just kind of worked out. This is the last spot I designed, and I always design on the fly. I never do it on paper. And there is some advantage to doing it on paper, knowing where the plants go in advance. Often, if everything isn't mapped out, then the client will start to put stuff just anywhere, and often they don't make informed choices. They just plant it wherever, and they don't think about stacking functions and that kind of stuff. So it is better to plan where everything goes. So I've been trying to start doing that. The mulberry will probably go here. I thought about putting, because the main planting will go along the picket fence where all the straw is. I had cardboard there and then stacked the straw. I had cardboard there for a few days to smother the grass, and then I moved it and reconstituted into these. You can see today was a very windy day, so some of the cardboard blew around, not even 10 pieces, so it should be easy to fix. So the trees that are going to be along the fence will be trimmed flat, except for this one in the corner. It will be a 45-degree angle to the southwestern sun, so flat on this side and then flat on this side. I'll trim them flat so that way there's nothing comes into the driveway, nothing will fall, and that's where mostly the pears will be, I think, because they're going to be the tallest trees, most likely. All the tallest trees will be along this fence, and then as we come this way, everything gets shorter and shorter. So trees, shrub, and then, your main lettuce area, food production area. People often say, where's the garden? Okay. The garden is, what I do is I plant the water first with these logs. Everyone knows what happens when water leaks in your house under the hardwood floor. It will rot and become punky and absorb and hold moisture. So that's what this is about. We're making the roots chase the water into the center of the yard instead of going towards the sidewalk. So this is a consideration. We want the plants, the trees that are along that picket fence. For example, I thought of doing a mulberry, which would be nice to carve and provide privacy. However, it will stain the sidewalk. The fruit is tremendous. And so I'm not going to put mulberries anywhere along this sidewalk or on the outside or the driveway. And I thought to put one here, for example, and trim it short, because mulberries, they pop up everywhere. We're in Michigan. There's fruit everywhere, just popping up wild. So mulberry is one of those trees. It's like a weed tree, but it's very prolific and it's very reliable every year. So I'm thinking put it here, make it short, possibly even a step over. There's sometimes you can trim a tree short, the trunk, and then just let the bottom two branches, or maybe branches, come up this way. I can change this. I was just trying to use up the space. About 18-inch paths and then 3-foot wide bed. So biodynamics does the same thing as permaculture. The idea is that you can reach the middle from both sides without stepping on the bed. So as I said, people ask, where's the garden? The garden is everywhere. It's wherever the path is not. It's that simple. 18-inch paths, 3-foot wide bed. Now to say these paths are wider than 18 inches, that's true, because where the logs are now represents the middle. And so the base of it will be about 3 feet wide when it's done. And, I just leave a little room for error because we can always slide these pieces over when we're done. I have yet to trim this corner out, which I will. I wanted, before I created a mess and also committed to chopping this down, I wanted to think about it for a while, and I'm definitely going to do it. As you can see, I trimmed a lot of this already, and then I just stuffed it into a mound here. This is sloppy mess from lawn bags. I got lawn bags on the side of the road. That's that's where this pine is coming from. Pine is great. It keeps things from growing in the path, of course, except acidic. And then you'll see there's grass. I use grass to cover these, just grass clippings from yards. Some people do spray, and so again, that's why it's good to let this sit over the winter, and in the spring it should be ripe and ready. And these logs are decayed already, so it's going to go fast. These are not fresh cut. They've been sitting and rotting for a while. And I think I'm going to leave this, waist height, maybe chest, because these are kind of neat, these curvy branches. It needed to be taken out though, because they were all kind of leaning and just stealing real estate. They needed to be trimmed. So when I chop, I'll chop this and then I'll leave it. I'll let it sit. Usually if I have time, I'll let it sit for a day, maybe a couple days, depending on how dry it is. Because instead of using coal power for my electric tools, or perhaps gasoline if you're using gasoline, even using trimmers, right, loppers or clippers, what you can do is if you let it sit, it'll just become brittle, and then you can snap it with your hands. It's a nice warm-up exercise in the morning, an hour or two, and then in the evening as well. It's just, if you do it all at once, it becomes tedious, but if you break it up into small chunks, it becomes kind of a fun little task. You break up these chunks, and then I stuff them in here. Another thing I did, I've never done before, was I took a brown bag. He had a bunch of compost, or I was saving the compost, and then he had a brown paper bag. I can't find it, but I just put the scraps in the brown paper bag, and then I rolled up the bag and I stuffed it in here. I thought, I've never done that before. It's a simple idea, but I think quite effective. It keeps the smell down, etc., and gives the food a chance to, like a little decomposing packet. And it'll stay there for a while, and you'd be surprised. The animals, they don't smell it. That's often the thing is, people ask, won't the animals get to it? Well, as long as you cover it. That's the one mistake I see a lot of people doing in their compost piles. It's the simplest thing. You just cover the food. You shouldn't be able to see the food in your compost pile. Okay? If you cover it, it won't smell. And it'll decompose better. You shouldn't see any food scraps. People come out and they just throw the food everywhere. You see bits of food on the ground. That's not how it's supposed to work. And the beauty part of this hugel is that, in a pinch, I can just shove it underneath. I don't have to open it up all the way, and I'll show you at the end. I'll have all the troughs open so you can see the proper way to having a system. So when you come out in the yard, everything is there's a system, so you know where the next food scraps go. There's my little observation chair. I have little chairs I set up in the yard, and I just like to sit and watch the birds and watch to see how the animals interact, etc. So, yeah, you'll be able to see this more well-defined. I just wanted to show you this before I cover it. And this path goes, you walk here. It's the same design as, I always do the same design. It's a starter design because it can be changed. So I do X paths from corner to corner. You can walk all the way. And then when I walk in here, this straw's in the way, but I should be able to walk right here once the straw's gone. And then I just have a little bit here that just denotes this kind of V shape. That way there's a splitting path. And then I come over here, and this is the center of the X, so I can continue all the way to that corner walking. I can walk all the way to that corner. And then if I turn around, there's a path all the way there. So right there. And then, of course, I have all the paths in between. I try to minimize the paths, but make it so that you don't have to walk in a huge circle every time you want to get to a certain area. But at the same time, making the more you kind of make a flow, the more, your yard just seems bigger. You can kind of walk around and you showcase when you show your friends and your neighbors your guilds. A guild is just a group of beings working together for mutual benefit. There's guilds, artisan guilds, worker guilds, but there's plant guilds. Some plants are beneficial to each other and others are not. When you see a tree growing in a forest or anywhere in nature, do you ever see it growing like this, where it's a stem and everything is grass underneath? No. it's bushes and herbs, and this whole 7 layers should be here. So people wonder why their trees get diseased and they don't have the proper support. So this is the middle video. I'm going to cover this, and then I'll do a final video, the backyard as well. I suppose I'll show you a quick snap of the backyard so I don't have to do another. And I just got my hedge trimmer battery. That's where we got the logs from, that little hole there we cut. It's a neighbor's yard, but he doesn't trim or do any maintenance. This is coming out. I'm going to hedge trim this. Again, I just got my battery in the mail yesterday, but it was really wet. That's a consideration when you're trimming. People often ask, when should I trim? If you talk to an orchardist, they'll say whenever you have time, just trim. Obviously spring and fall, so before the dormancy, while dormancy is still active. Once the plant comes out of dormancy, ideally that's not ideal anymore. Same in the winter. Once it goes into dormancy, that's best. However, you can trim any time, and fruit trees especially love to be trimmed. The only time I would not recommend is after it rains or when it's wet. Disease spreads a lot easier when things are wet, so if it rains, give it a day or two even to dry out, and then do your trimming. But I trim all year round. And this was just really thick. I just wanted to kind of leave this so you could see the canopy, and I mean, look how much space is being opened up here. There's a fox squirrel. I mean, that's a lot of space. There's a black walnut over here that needs to be taken out. There. And we're getting back a lot of valuable real estate here. And then I'm simply going to make a berm. Same thing, path along the fence. So you can walk along the fence, 18-inch wide path, and then a 3-foot wide berm all the way. And then I'll trace it here, same thing, all the edges. I might come out one more here, but I think for the backyard, we're going to leave all this open for now. I think that's about it. The only other consideration is tree removal, like this one, which is a neighbor's tree leaning right over this garage. It will come down someday, and it is a hazard. So remember, trim your trees, keep them under control. It's true, the temperature, they're great for temperature regulation. You're gonna lose that when you initially take the trees out, but you replace them with useful trees and trees that aren't gonna cost you money and time and labor later on. They're worth a lot of money. Often a person doesn't look at a tree and think, wow, that's $10,000, but trees are worth a lot of money. So thanks for watching. I'll post on YouTube, the Permaculture page, G3 Great Lakes Guilds. This is Flint, Michigan, my hometown. And I'll be heading out to Montreal soon. Depending on the storm, I might be in the Carolinas. So if I go to Carolina, I'll do an update on my aunt's yard in Apex near Raleigh. I did a design there. Thanks again for watching. #JimmyLeafTender. Have a good weekend.